video we posted was a video of just, feeling overwhelmed.
In 2019, we outgrew our house, so we downsized to a home on wheels. We built out our Sprinter van and traveled the country until we decided to buy a property, a home on land. We are Marcus, Janie, Rhea, and Kaya.
A lot has happened since then, just haven't necessarily recorded. And I think part of that is also just the feeling that we're not necessarily working day in and day out on our property right now. We are. It's just not necessarily physical work. A lot of work is book work and drawings and sketching and research and talking with people. At this point, we're staying at my parents' house. I mentioned in one of the other videos that it's pretty cool that all of our family is in the same area now, and my parents just bought a property about 20 minutes away from us. They're not out here yet. They're still in Colorado. They just put up their house for sale, so that's pretty exciting. But they found a house out here that they really liked and wanted to buy it. So it ended up working out well because our house is ready, so we're staying here while they make the transition. And they have a good piece of land. I think it's 6 acres or 9. It's a little over 9 acres, and they have some pastures out here, and they have some fencing out here that is like the electric fence. That's the movable fence, and at this point they're not going to use it. The people that lived here before had sheep, and so at this point they're not using it. So we're going to take it down and hopefully be able to reuse it. See if we can reuse it, and because that's one of the first things that we'll do on our property. So I'm not sure what type of fencing this is, what brand it is, just because it was already here. And my guess is that it's Premier One, which, just talking with other homesteaders and people that have livestock, like, this is a really good fence. And the idea here is what we're planning on doing. We probably will, just because our land isn't that big, we have just under 2 acres. So we will most likely, for sure at the start, just have chickens and then goats. And the idea is that we will do rotational grazing. And so there's a lot of great people that talk about it. I know Joel Salatin is kind of the forerunner with it. And then we've also been learning stuff from Justin Rhodes with the chickens, and then just some other people, definitely permaculture style, looking up different permaculturists and seeing how they do it. But with the rotational grazing, instead of letting all of your animals graze, instead of saying, okay, here's 1 acre and we're just going to put a fence around the whole thing and they can graze it, you're going to rotate based off of how many animals you have, how many goats or chickens, whatever it may be, and then how often. So it varies from if you have cows or if you have goats or sheep or chickens, and on the amount of land that you want to give them, and also the amount of time. But it can be anywhere from like a day to a week of when you rotate them. And so you want to have a fencing to where you can easily rotate that fence around that perimeter and change it as you go. And what that does is it gives the land time to rest and to regrow. But then the animals being on there are going to essentially create a natural fertilizer. They're going to take care of your grounds, and then rather than tromping around on everything, they're having a smaller amount to work on. When I thought about it, when I was learning all this, it's kind of like a kid in a candy shop. If you set a kid loose in a candy shop or a big toy store, and they only have so much money, it's like it takes hours for them to decide what to get, because the choices are so overwhelming. There's so many. Versus if you have a smaller amount, they don't have so much selection. So that's how I'm thinking of rotational grazing as I've been learning it. So that way, when you have that area that your goats are going to be on, or whatever it may be, they're going to not be as picky walking around. They're going to graze all of the land that's there, and before they move on, because they can't move on. And as the owner and taking care of your animals, you're going to be watching that. So I can't remember the other gal that I watched. Anna, I can't remember her name. I'll link it down below. Anna of All Trades. Okay, I think it was Anna of All Trades. If not, I don't remember who it was. There was a lot of different videos that I watched, a lot of different stuff I read, and anything that I sourced I will try to put down below, so that way if you're interested in this you can look it up yourselves. But different animals, I'm kind of covering the basis here, not talking about a specific animal, so every animal varies. And of course, I am still inexperienced. This is vlog style. This is we're going as we learn. So I'm not the person to learn from. I'm just telling you how we're doing it, and hopefully it's going to work out, because we're learning from people who know more than us. But we want them, with the goats, we want them to eat the pastures and the brush and the plants that we have provided for them down close to the ground, but not super close. And so we're going to have to be watching it. Oh yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's as much of an art as it is a science, because you have to be paying attention, you have to be observing, and that's why it's going to be good for us in the beginning, is getting our feet wet and learning about our animals and paying attention to them where we have to, because we're going to be rotating them. So we have to be paying attention to see if the amount of land that we gave them for that week, if it's going to be enough, or if it was too much and we need to go down. But it's really cool, because then you move them and you can see the difference of they essentially just mow your grass for you, or more I guess it's not your grass, your pasture, with different plants and whatnot. And I'll go more into this in future videos. And then you put them on the next pasture and do the same, and you keep rotating them. And on our plat of land, we're probably going to have about 6 rotations. We may have more, but that's what I'm thinking right now after just doing some studying and trying to put some things down on paper. And the reason being is because with the goats, if they have the parasites, then they have a 4 to 6 week time frame as far as the parasites staying alive. So as long as we take them off of that rotation, or at least if we have at least 6 rotations, then by that time they come back to that first rotation, they should be good. But we'll rotate them. And so we need to have electric fencing, because it's going to be the easiest, because we'll just take them out and reset them and then power them up, and then the next week do the same. So that's our plan right now. It may change. We'll show you as we go, as we actually start doing this. Okay. Let me rephrase what I said earlier. I said that this will be one of the first things that we do. It's putting up the fence and getting goats. It's not exactly what I meant. There are so many moving parts right now, especially with buying a property. With buying a property that doesn't have, the outbuildings aren't ready, the home's not ready. So currently, just to tell you what we have going on right now, the floors are the foundation of the tiny house. I don't think they're going to be as bad as we originally thought. We got all of the floors pulled up. Well, I should say the way that it's built is different than most. And so he had a quarter or an eighth of an inch plywood. So on the joists, let me go back up. Okay, he had the joists. He built the joists for the floorboard, and then on top of that, he did decking. I don't know. I think it's probably 2x6. It might be 2x4. I don't know without looking right now. Diagonally across all of the joists, and then on top of that was quarter or an eighth of an inch plywood, but it was nailed down in 1,000 places. And then, I gotta stop, you guys. I'm out of shape. And then on top of that, was carpet. So we got all that out. It's now just down to the floorboards, and we were able to pull up a couple floorboards where we saw that where they were lifted up. I don't remember if you'd have to go back to those videos. I'll try and post a picture here in this video. But it was lifted up, and so we knew something was going on. We didn't know if the foundation was settling or what was going on, but he has the whole house sat on telephone poles. So it's all sat on, I think there's 3 going across, no, it might be 4. It's like 4 going the lengthwise and then 3 going across width. And on the width, all of the ones that are in the width, they're actually not underneath the joist. My guess is that he measured wrong and then went ahead with it, because what it is all of those telephone poles in the center, rather than being underneath the joist, they're underneath the deck boards. And so now there's no support underneath it. So it's sagging in the middle, and now the telephone poles are coming through the floorboards. Property the last couple weeks. But we are scheduled to get our roof on. We are going with a company that's going to put another metal roof on at the end of February. And so before then, we need to pull the floorboards up and fix the foundation. But I think all we're going to have to do is jack up the center where the joists are, and put new posts underneath all of the center ones to add some extra support. And we're hoping we can keep the floorboards. They're super cool, but there's gaps in between them, so we have to do some brainstorming to see if that's going to make sense, because we want it airtight, the floor, unless we only want air to come through where we want the air to come through, not in the other places. You lose so much energy. And I don't remember what the percentage is, but it's something like 60%. I'll put it here if I can find it, of houses lose their heat from their house based off of leaks, air leaks. So we want to make sure that that's done right. Okay, where was I going with all of this? Oh, back to saying the first thing. So that's what we have going on with the house. So we need to get the floorboards, we need to get the foundation jacked up so that before we get the roof on. A lot of other projects there. And then we also have the yard, and that includes what we're going to be planting and growing, and also our animals. So we can't just focus on one thing, because it all kind of goes together. Right now, like a big thing is we really want to get our perennial plants started. So perennial plants that you can use for food and for medicine, and also that are good for your garden, for other companion plants, and good for your grounds for so many reasons. They take longer to establish, sometimes 2 to 3 years, depending on what you're going to be growing. And so it's important that we get those in the ground this year. So this is the time of year right now where, when it is a little bit colder, although it's actually really beautiful here right now, just trying to figure out what we're going to do with seeds and where we're going to get seeds from. We're actually going to go to a seed swap on Thursday. Really looking forward to that. But so we have to start planning to make sure that we get the seeds in the ground, or whatever else we're going to put in the ground this spring. So we want to make sure that we're doing that. It's important that we get chickens. We want to start getting chicks for eggs, and also meat chickens as soon as possible. So there's definitely things before the goats, but it's all just things. The fence will also be used for the chickens, because they'll be free range, but within, an area in the pasture. So I'm just basically like putting everything out here that's been kind of going through my brain, and that's being put on paper. And so yeah, we're gonna go with this here fencing, my parents' shed for now. Oh, and then I'm actually gonna go make some make some elderberry syrup for Rhea. I don't know what she came down with. I don't know if it's the thing, but oh my goodness, what happened here? So yeah, just gonna go get some of that started, and we'll see what else gets done today. Elderberry syrup is pretty darn easy to make if you have the right ingredients, and you can customize it to how you want. I add ginger and garlic to pretty much everything because they are powerhouse ingredients. Elderberries have a long list of health benefits, including to boost the immune system, fight and protect against bacterial infections, and also viral infections. Water from our Berkey water filter removes chlorine, fluoride, pathogens, VOCs, heavy metals, and more. Cinnamon adds great flavor, but it is also loaded with antioxidants and has anti-inflammatory properties. Cloves add a sweet and aromatic taste, and they also are high in antioxidants and can kill bacteria. Star anise adds a sweet and licorice-like taste. It also is loaded in antioxidants, can kill off bacteria, and is a natural flu fighter. I I add all these ingredients to a small pot over high heat in no particular order, and I bring it to a very low boil before turning it down to simmer for about 45 minutes until it's reduced about halfway. That looks pretty good. Next, I will put a cheesecloth over a cup or a bowl and pour as much out as I can into it. Usually pouring most of the berries out. I try to get as much liquid out of it as possible. I typically make a mess at this point. And with that cheesecloth, you can also use a strainer, but the cheesecloth, I feel like you can get a lot more liquid out. And if you're anything like me, you're too impatient to wait until it cools. So I just try to do this. I like a challenge, see if I can do this without burning my fingers and get creative. So that's usually when that's right there at that point where I use a spatula and just kind of pressed on it to get as much liquid out as possible. Before composting the elderberries and all the other goodies, I put them back in the pot to make a batch of tea. It's time to pour the liquid into containers, and I will use recycled containers or mason jars. And I really love my measuring cups. They're silicone and I can squeeze them so it eliminates the use of a funnel. So that's pretty great. Now we'll add the honey. I'm just eyeing it this time because I hate using measuring cups since it's so sticky, as long as it's not going to ruin the recipe. If you really want the health benefits, make sure that it's local and ideally know where it comes from. I'm showing this step to wipe off the tops of your honey because it drives me nuts when the lid gets stuck. And at this point, just put your lids on them and shake them up. Be sure to add the honey after the heating process so you don't risk losing the health benefits of it. And voila, you have elderberry syrup for the winter season. Take a tablespoon daily for preventative or 4 tablespoons daily if you're sick.